Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Look who it is.
Oh my
Diane
God.
didn't get to see you.
I know, where is she?
Yes, she's down in the gym.
Oh, wait. We look like we look. Yeah, they know us, right?
You have to ask yourself the question, are you happy being in the team picture, or do you want to be great?
Say it one more time for the people in the back.
You need to find those players who love football so much and care so much about each other that they'll do anything to make it happen.
Raider Nation, we are back for another episode of Raiders Talk of the Nation. I am joined by two legends today, and we're taking you all the way to LA. I'm talking about the LA Raiders. Okay, guys, it's time to make you blush.
Uh-oh.
Howie Long, as I said, legend, Super Bowl champion, 8-time Pro Bowler, defensive end, handling business out there on the field.
Defensive end's like putting a ribbon on a pig. I was a defensive tackle. That's a defensive end.
Greg Townsend, Super Bowl champ as well. 2-time Pro Bowler, legend, we can't forget that. And all-time sack leader for the Raiders.
Thank you.
Holding it down
Thank
still
you.
to this day.
27 years.
Whew, it feels good to have you guys with us.
It's good to be with this guy. I love this guy.
It was a surprise.
I love him. I
was.
sought him out last night. He was,
Yeah, you
he was
did.
on the patio. I said, "Where's my boy?" Our group was such a special group, and it's hard to really get people to understand the group. It started with our defensive line coach, Earl Leggett, late great Earl Leggett, who is, arguably the best defensive line coach I think that's ever been. And, he takes a group. Sean Jones was there last night. Sean Jones could barely get in a stance when we got him. He's got over 100 sacks.
And then could barely get out of the stance.
Yeah, right,
Once
right.
he did get in it.
Right, and turned out to be over 100 sacks.
Wow.
Small school guy. Greg, TCU, linebacker, never really put his hand on the ground, ends up being the #1 sack guy for the Raiders. If I hadn't gone to the Blue-Gray game as a player, I think pulled out, someone on the selection committee knew a guy that I played high school with, and I'm a late kind of fill-in. I win the MVP of the game. Ironically, the coach is Jimmy Johnson. We're all, the commonality is that Bill Pickell, he's a 6'7", 6'6" nose guard. All of us were guys that weren't really,
Yeah, the puzzle didn't fit.
He built us from the ground up.
That's what I was going to say earlier when you was talking. We saw each other grow
Yes.
under Earl's intentions to make us great. I know I didn't know none of the stuff he was teaching back in college, and I don't think you did
We
either.
didn't have a film room in Villanova.
Yeah. So everything we learned it from him. And
Yeah.
we had to learn it fast under his umbrella because, Earl has a way of coaching.
He took us to a place, and it's hard really to understand. He took us to a place mentally and physically that you didn't know you could get to. And none of it had to do with the game. It was all about what are you willing to do to be great? And you would fear going in that room on Monday.
That was what it was.
If you got hooked, if you just got...
You had to do anything to go.
Oh my God, I love it. And we'd start every practice and training camp, I remember, with like 42, 44, 45 up downs.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd lay in bed at night thinking about the up downs. And here I am, I'm thinking, I'm not worried about the game, I'm worried about the up downs. And we were always in the far corner of the practice field. We were on the mini field. And we do those 42 up downs, we do individual. If we survived individual period.
Look, and the rest of the guys were teasing us about the
Yeah,
up downs.
because nobody's
cornerbacks be teasing.
one's, yeah.
They be over there doing a few of them, just
And you had
looking at us like we over there
a full
just
session.
breathing. Yeah, a full
Yeah.
session of breathing. And they just know that we're we're hurting.
His thought process was, and I'll give you an example. It was a game down in Miami. It was 90 degrees, 90% humidity. Marino's throwing the ball all over the place.
35 times before half.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes,
that ain't never happened before.
But here was the thing. I think it was Mike Haynes. They drove the ball down the field, and he's throwing 5 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, and it's pass, short pass. And nobody threw the ball faster than Dan. You could beat your guy clean, and the ball's gone. So I think we're down on the 1 or our 2 yard line, and I think it was Mike Haynes picks the ball off, go 98 yards for a touchdown. That's the good news. The bad news is we just had 15 plays, and we have to go back out on the field because none of us.
He should have stopped on the 1.
Should have waited.
None of us. There was a red phone on the sideline, and that was Al's phone. Okay, people don't know that. There was a red phone.
He had a Commissioner Gordon phone.
Yeah, it was the hot phone.
It was the bat phone, yeah. If I came out of the game for anything.
Yeah, what are you doing?
The phone's ringing, and he's asking, why am I out of the game? So we didn't, if we had 80 snaps, we played 80 snaps.
LA is so special. The fan base there is still so heavy, out in Los Angeles. You know it, you're laughing already being from LA yourself. What is the legacy of the Los Angeles Raiders and the reputation and just the vibes that were going on while you were playing for that team during that time?
Well, the whole thing with our legacy and with LA is when we bought them the championship. We had fit in with
first one.
Yeah, because Dodgers was doing their things, the Lakers was doing their things. So when we got to town, it was early, and we bought a championship early to LA. So then we became credible at that point. And so we then grew a big old fan base out there from bringing that championship to LA, and it never stopped. Still growing.
Still growing. Yeah, still to this day. Was it I want to get into Super Bowl. But the last thing before we transition into that, tell me if you could describe your friendship and what you built out there on the field with your teammates.
I always say it's one of those things where
it goes unsaid.
Great friends.
It goes
unsaid. Great friends. It's like Bill or you. I'm so happy when I see this guy. I truly am, and I have so much respect for him. And he was such a great player. And we were. It's like the peanut butter and jelly. And we talked about Max, and we talked about hopefully he's got some help inside now, and it was always, it's the four fingers. It's we're together as a group, but we can not see each other for a year, 6 months, 7 months. And the minute you see that person, it's like we were just together. So many memories when I see his face of games and meetings and
That's
practices.
What I was going to say, the meetings.
And all that stuff. You just can't, it's hard for someone who hasn't done it and hasn't had the kind of success that our group had. We had some really good players, and we had some really good guys. And it was a selfless room.
That's what I was going to say. It was so nobody was selfish in there. Everybody did their part, and that's why we grew and can trust each other. And I think that's what grew our bond, so our friendship would never end. Because we could trust one another.
You go on the field together, you go off the field together, and and that was a kind of an era where I see guys now, and listen, I don't want to sound like Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino saying, get off my lawn.
I love all your movie references.
But, it's kind of funny to me, and Michael Strahan and I talk about it too, this whole after the game, trading jerseys, and, and that's fine, but I never spoke to John Elway until the night before I retired.
Wow.
At the Super Bowl, and I didn't tell anybody I was going to retire. And we were at a restaurant/bar, and they closed the place, and we sat there till about 2 a.m. and retired the next day. But I just didn't speak to people that I was going to play against.
And Earl instilled that in us too.
Totally.
Yeah, he instilled that in us.
Totally.
You did have to develop some kind of rival, some kind of dislike for your opponent.
You need that when you go out there, because that's the point of the game, right?
Elway came in the same year I did, just as bring that up. He came in the same year I did, and I think when he came in, he was supposed to go to the coach, and he made this little hoo-ha about he don't want to play for Frank Kush, who was coaching the coach at that time. So he was going to go play baseball. And so to me, it sounded a little prima donna, seemed a little privileged. So I said, I got my eyes on you. And so every game we played, of course, I sacked him 3 times each game. And what was the icing on the ceiling is when I did put it out there, I think in the late 80s, that I wanted to race some quarterbacks, for charity.
My man could run.
And
my man could run getting out of a car after 5 hours. He could run. You put him in a closet. There's very few people that could do that.
Where I'm from, you either run to it or run from it.
From here to the door, I'm really quick.
Anything past
But
that?
after that, if I'm running 40 yards, we're in trouble.
Yeah, so I picked up that 86-yard touchdown from Elway and saw that he had an angle on me too, and turned his angle to a straight line. So I said, I'm not going to get any takers if I start challenging these guys for a race.
No.
Good times, right?
I've always said this, and I say this to young players too. You have 2 things you have. You have time, and you have opportunity. And I've said this to Max. I said, there's nothing I wouldn't give, short of my family, to turn back the clock and be 25. And,
Sound like Al now.
be part of, I'll tell you a funny one about him. I don't even know if you know this, but to turn back the clock and be a part of, building the thing back up. And I said, listen, history's great.
Because you did your part.
History's great, and we were part of it, and we had our successes, and the teams that were before us had their successes. When I got there, everywhere you looked, there was greatness. It's Freddie Blitnikoff, it's Jim, late great. We just lost Jim Otto, the John Wayne of I mean, God, talk about tough son of a gun. Jim was great. I played with Art, I played with Gene, Ted Hendricks, the smartest player I ever played with. Greatness, you didn't have to look far to see what greatness looked like. And, to aspire to do that and to work as hard as you possibly could and sacrifice a lot of sacrifice. And once you're done playing football, you take yourself so far physically and mentally, and you challenge yourself, and it's Groundhog Day. It's the same thing every day. You got to be great on Monday. You got to be great on Wednesday. You got to be great on Thursday. You got to be great on Sunday. After football, everything is easy.
It is.
Life is easy after football, and maybe that's just
No,
I'm just looking at it that way.
No. I think when they hear it like that, because I know for me, it took the great Deacon Jones to tell me that. I think he asked me one time, did I want to coach? And I said, I don't know if I can coach. And Deacon, he explode on you. You go, you did 8 weeks of NFL training camp? You can do anything. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You do 8 weeks of NFL training camp.
Training camp used to be brutal.
Because it was 12 practice and 1 day off.
Yeah.
So the league is so different now.
You know what? And with good reason. Look no further than my kitchen, at 1 o'clock in the morning. I remember one year we were out in Arizona, and our son Kyle who played for the Bears, and Chris played for St. Louis at the time. And Kyle, they're so, same house, different kids. Kyle's like 6'7", 330, and just a monster, and Chris looks like G.I. Joe, and, and so here they are after the season where they had played against each other for the first time, and Kyle got in a fight in the game and grabbed one of Chris's teammates and was just ragdoll and trying to kick him, and, it took 8 people, and Chris had to come off the sideline to get Kyle off of people. And now it's 1 o'clock in the morning. We're in Arizona. I'm sitting on the couch, and I've had like 13 surgeries. And, it takes me a while to warm up. If you give me 5 minutes, I'm okay. But don't sucker punch me right away. And these two are relitigating the fight earlier in the year, and they're in boxer shorts and they're enormous. You know,
Yeah, they're not kids no more.
They're not kids no more, and I'm saying to myself, how can I get this thing broken up?
Yeah, without getting myself in trouble.
If it happens,
Right.
everyone is, and anyone that tells you any different, with the exception of a guy like Greg, everything is, no, seriously.
Yeah, I just want to know where it's going.
Well, here's where I'm going with it. Greg could be a pass rusher on the outside, whether he's an outside linebacker or a defensive end. Greg's size, Greg's speed, all that. The guy that played Joe Green's position, Joe Green was 270, 275. The guy that plays that position now is 315, 320.
Gotcha.
Offensive lines now are 320. I think the 318, 320 as an average.
Right.
Terry Bradshaw's offensive line was 255.
Yeah,
Wow.
Everything is bigger, stronger, faster. The training is so much better. You know where we ate? We ate off a construction truck.
Food truck.
It was a guy would beep the horn out
food
front,
truck, and it was greasy.
and it was greasy. That's where we ate. Bill Bickel and I would come in early, and we'd make our own coffee. There was no lunchroom. We didn't have
no lounge.
No
Yeah,
lounge.
you
no.
sitting in your locker.
You did it yourself, but the players are in better shape. You know, their training is better, their nutrition's better, they're bigger, stronger, faster, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah, so
That's the
the
reality.
game
of
has
it.
evolved.
But
People, yeah,
certain guys, certain players, like Greg could still be the same guy outside. If you're playing inside, you know, you've got to be at least, if you're going to be, Aaron Donald's an exception to the rule, because Aaron's probably 285 and 280 and 6'1",
But
6'2".
you played like Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
You
well,
had all that leverage that he had.
No, but if you're, see, but here's the problem. 70% of our snaps were two gap. So you're in a sit, squat, and catch position.
Correct.
If we're in a four-man front, if they put us in a four-man front,
It's different.
forget about it. You know, you could go.
'Cause, yeah,
But if you're playing in a two-gap scheme, that defensive end is 310.
because you got to take that pound.
Gotta
yeah,
take
he's
that
got to be
pounding.
able to,
Yeah.
withstand that. The strength, the grit, everything that came from you being on that field and what you learned in LA. Talk to me about the man, Al Davis.
He's a persona of the players. Al come out there with the biggest swagger you ever seen. So he coming out there with his swagger, and it makes you have your swagger about yourself, you know. And when I say his whole theory was winning, you know. So it's just not winning the game; it's winning those battles. It's winning those contests that you have. And it's coming out here. Not with the attitude of losing, not the attitude of just getting by. It was always the attitude of winning. So that was pounded in you. So it's one of those things you live with even off the field. So it's all about that swagger he had, and that personified our team, which gave us the swagger.
It's interesting, and I agree with Greg. He, you know, and he still personifies, you know, what the team and you know, the motto and, you know, the whole kind of, you know, be great, you know, win, you know, just win, baby, and the whole thing. And it seemed like we were in litigation with the league, you know, on a constant basis. There were, you know, people find it hard to, and it was such an interesting team to grow up on and play in. And we were fortunate in the sense that nobody got in our building.
Well,
we were an island. There was a
Yeah.
fence around the building,
And it was
and
tight.
nobody got in there. And people weren't allowed in the locker room, and there was nobody at practice, no friends of, you know, it was just us. You could, and we practiced down in the far
The
end of
deep
the
end,
field,
yeah.
far end of the field. And Al wore a cologne that as soon as he walked out of the building, you smelled him before you saw him, and all those coaches just puckered up.
But look, in my mind, it had to have been some expensive cologne.
It did.
Because to have that,
It traveled.
Nobody could mimic that. I could have put on a whole bottle of high karate or something, and nobody would have smelt me that
No,
far.
and-
You
Yeah.
two never found out what the cologne was?
Never found out what the
we go,
cologne was.
Al, what's your cologne? How do I have that conversation?
You need to find. We need
First,
to find
I didn't
this
call
out.
him. I didn't call him Al.
What did you
He
call
probably
I called
wouldn't
him
want
Mr.
you
Davis.
smelling
Mr.
like him
Davis.
anyway.
I called him
Did
Mr.
you
Davis.
also call him Mr. Davis?
Correct.
Yes.
I call him Mr. Davis, but he'd come by me and I'd be sitting on my helmet. It'd be offensive period, and he'd go, "Oh, Long, you think you're tough?" And I'm saying to myself, do you think he can kick my ass?
Well, here it is. I don't think he would have did it physically.
Yeah.
We know he probably was a phone call away from getting our ass kicked.
Yeah, yeah.
He'll call, hey, come
He
get
was. I'll tell you what he
Because the way
was.
you would talk,
Business.
because the way you talk to you, like you
Yeah,
said.
and I'm like, really, really? But he was a guy who was a brilliant football mind.
No doubt about it.
X's and O's, could stand there. He knew everything about what we were running. He knew everything about the offense, the defense. From a personnel standpoint, listen, I think that it was the first year I think ESPN had the broadcast for the draft when I came out, and they said, we don't even have a film on this guy. I think they could have gotten him in the 5th, 6th round.
Mm-hmm.
Earl Leggett came up and worked me out. I don't know if
I
Earl,
heard it.
And Earl, all he had me do was take 2 steps up the field, plant my outside foot, and come inside.
That's it.
That was it. And never said a word to me and walked away. And I wrote them off. I said, I didn't even know where Oakland was. I had to look it up in a map. Because Villanova, we busted games. We were playing the Delaware Blue Hens, and
Look, I lived in California. I had to look up.
right.
You did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I
When you
never
grow up
heard
in that kind of neighborhood, Charlestown and Compton are like you're in the
just
neighborhood.
there. Yeah,
and
there's nothing outside.
If the L train didn't go there from my neighborhood,
Well,
I wasn't.
If these couldn't take me there,
Yeah.
I wasn't going.
Yeah, so when they drafted me, it was, and Ron Wolf and I have talked about it, who was another guy. I mean, you're talking about, when I get there, it's Ron Wolf. He's the GM, Hall of Famer, legend, great judge of talent. Al Davis, Earl Leggett, Freddie Blitnikoff, Jim Otto's around all the time. Art and Gene were, I go from.
And all those guys was wearing those rings when they come
Yeah,
through,
and
too.
Willie Brown, I'll tell you, I still to this day, I was very close with Clifford because I lived with Cedric Harbin, and Cliff would sleep on my sofa periodically, in Alameda. I will not erase their numbers off my phone.
Wow.
And I was so disappointed.
That's deep.
I was so disappointed that Clifford wasn't around
Yeah, for this.
for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. That is a big disappointment to see, for him to have started something like stretching the defense.
Oh my God! Hey,
He's
listen,
the one done that.
here's-
and that's what everybody's trying to
Here's
do.
how you judge a player. Okay, forget about the numbers, because numbers can be, you can have a sack a game and be just a
Well,
stiff.
you came up against the weekest guy or
Right.
something.
Whoever
yeah,
it is,
yeah,
whoever it
just
is,
some soft
whatever
guy.
the reason is, you could be bad the other 50 plays, and you're a great player. On Monday morning, what does the opposing team have to deal with? What's their first priority? Our group they have to take care of. And when they break the huddle, who's the first guy you have to worry about? Clifford was the guy that he made the run game go because you couldn't roll a safety up. You had to go too deep. And Clifford was at one point one of the fastest people on the planet. Think about this.
Yeah, he was.
He was one of the fastest people on the planet. if not-
1972. He was
yeah, I
the
mean,
fastest guy.
just could fly, and his enthusiasm and his ability to make people, long man, and he called Diane Lady Di.
Yeah, he gets you in that charming.
He was so positive, and I think he could run a 4.4 at 62. I swear to God, I think he
probably
could.
could. He still looked like Cliff.
Yes, he did look like Cliff, and I loved him. And we had so many guys like that. And Art and Gene were great to me, as a young player. You know, I'm playing Delaware one week and I'm going against Art Shell.
Well, for me, when I came into rookie camp, you and Lyle walked on the field.
Oh, God.
With them Dolphin shorts.
Yeah.
Big old thighs out of there. And I'm going like, whoa, is that what I got to look like to play?
No, you got to run.
Well, I didn't know it then. I'm thinking I had to look like that. And I'm like, no
No.
way, I can do that. You know, so that was.
Lyle would be benching 570 and he'd say, spot me. And I'm like, wow,
570.
what am I going to do if you drop this?
yeah.
I can't
curl it.
I can't get that off you. And you know, Lyle, he was so, volatile. Bless his heart.
Off the field, though, he was the gentleman, yeah.
You talk about these amazing players, these greats like yourselves, and what you built there. Just quickly on that foundation, I feel that's the Raider way that was being built. And what we're seeing now, again, with AP coming back around again, you know, the black hole's never going anywhere, and the fans were not going anywhere. But what you built and that foundation that you set, those roots there for what the Raiders are.
And you're right. And I want to touch on what you just said about AP, because I was telling somebody this morning that, it's good to have him coming back and doing that Raider way thing, because it is about just going out there playing hard. It's not about worried about mistakes. And I said, I don't know where you get that from. And somebody said, Greg, he snuck into the stadiums when you and Howie was playing.
Yeah.
He snuck in them stadiums. He watched that. He saw that vibe.
He's
from the neighborhood.
He felt it even.
Yeah.
So, with that said, we were trying to uphold our
History.
our tradition here.
Here's the thing that I said to Max, and I have to, I think AP is, I love AP. You could listen. You could talk about X's and O's, and X's and O's are important. The guy that's in front of the room on Monday, the guy that's in front of the room on Sunday morning, the guy that's on the sideline on Sunday is important. He sets the agenda and the foundation and the mindset of the football team.
Correct.
That's one. And two is, we had the luxury of, like I said, when I got there and when Greg got there, you didn't need to look far to see what greatness looked like. Max is kind of not by himself. I don't want to say by himself, because that would be.
But it'd be arguably to say by himself, but you wouldn't get no qualm from me.
He's changing. He's reestablishing that kind of mindset in the football team.
I was at a banquet back in the day, and I saw this big guy coming toward me. I'm sitting with Mel Blount and Bob Gibson. I'm sitting at the table with them, so I'm thinking.
How big is Mel Blount?
I know. I'm thinking, this guy coming across the room must be coming for
Is
them.
something you did?
Because I'm like,
did I fight him or?
But I'm looking at him. They're not. So I'm seeing this guy come close, and all of a sudden he gets close. He said, "Greg Townsend?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Dwight Stevenson. I just came over to tell you one thing. When we were playing against you guys, we wasn't getting ready for number 75. We was getting ready for you." And I said, "Go tell 5 more people that."
Yeah, I like Dwight. Dwight was the best center we ever played against.
Of course.
That's got to be the highest compliment when
No
someone comes
question.
up to another,
No
a
question.
That
player
is.
comes up and tells you, we're looking at you, we got to
Yep.
be careful for
That
this
is.
guy
question.
right here.
And you don't know that. You don't know that they're getting ready for you. You think they're getting ready for him.
Right.
You think,
You're like, me?
let the load off. Yeah, get the load off me.
Yeah.
Put the target on his back.
Well, I'm going to put the target back on your back for
Yeah,
a second.
exactly.
Because there was a game in Buffalo.
Uh-oh.
It was cold. Someone was on a bench with a cigarette. Was it lit? What was happening? What was going on?
Well, I thought the lit cigarette keep me warmer. Close to fire as I can get, right?
It was cold.
But I tell you, and I'm gonna tell this story. Can I tell this story?
Yes, of course.
We were in halftime, and we drinking the coffee and the cider and all that stuff.
Sure.
So I creeped over to pick, right? I said, "Bill, if I thought it was kosher enough, I'll quit the team right now and meet y'all back in LA. There's no way we should go back out there for this game.
We'd thrown about 5 interceptions at that point.
So me, I'm just trying to get kicked off the field. That's why I threw that cigarette in there, right? I'm like, one of these coaches gonna tell me get off the field or something, right? It's not gonna be music to my ears, right? But nobody said a word. They just thought it was the smoke. I guess they just thought it was.
When you're breathing.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
That's crazy.
You were going to that
It's a different
extreme
world.
just to
Because
get-
we had Bill Urbanic then. We didn't
Could
have
you-
Earl
I
then.
was gonna say, could you imagine a player now pulling out a cigarette in Buffalo or?
They pulling
No, I tell my-
they pulling out cigars in the locker room.
that's true.
Soon later it's gonna hit the field.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know you guys have stories for days on all of this. I want to jump into Super Bowl.
Okay.
The moment going in, knowing the big show is about to happen. What's the mentality going into that? Is there angst? Is there just let's go in like that just win or moment? And
What we had is a coach named Tom Flores. Here's Tom standing in the middle of the room saying, "Hey fellas, I don't know what to tell you, but they don't remember second place team." And for my rookie self, I'm sitting over here thinking, who did Washington beat last year? And I couldn't think of it right away. And I said, well, that's what the man means.
Right.
That's what he means.
We had played them earlier in the year up in Washington. It was like 90 degrees. And we lost on a screen pass to Joe Washington late in the game, 3rd and long, backed up. Physically, I thought, and they were a team that I think they had set the scoring record
Yeah, they did.
that stood from 1983 until the Chris Carter, Randy Moss,
Oh, wow.
Minnesota Vikings. That's a long time.
that's a long. Yeah, that's.
So we had lost that game. Marcus, I think, was out.
That's it. That was the
Marcus
secret weapon. He was
Cliff-
out.
Hold on, but Cliff Branch pulled a hamstring early.
But he scored on that
But he
hamstring,
scored,
yeah.
but he pulled a
Pulled in.
hamstring. So I think us losing up there in a close game, it was a lot of snaps. It was really hot, and they had like Army fatigues, and they were the whole thing. And we felt like physically our fronts, and very few people did, because when you looked at them on film, they just mauled people. It was like counter 66, counter 67, and play action off of it. And it was Riggins. Riggins was a load. And they had great wide receivers, but we had 2 guys that never had to even get in the huddle, because Lester
Yeah,
and
Lester
Mike,
Mike,
they
yeah.
were in cover 1 or cover 3. I mean, it was just.
It was cover 1.
It was cover 1
yeah.
most of the time.
Probably
So
try to disguise it.
Lester was like, 7'5", 83, you play the run.
Yeah, but our mentality for that Super Bowl, we knew we were going to win that game.
Yeah, that's what
we
you
just
go into.
knew it. I mean,
I think there was a fight in practice on
There was a
Wednesday.
fight in
Matt
practice,
Millen got in
yeah.
a fight
That
in
was-
practice on Wednesday. So what ends up happening is
that's when we knew we was going to win, when Matt got in that fight.
Yeah, so, and maybe Matt orchestrated that. But
I think he did.
here's what happened. It's 2nd and long. They're backed up, and there were a couple plays that kind of broke their back. One was the Derek Jensen blocks a punt, and and the whole thing there, and then Jack. And what happened was it's 3rd and long, backed up. Joe Washington screen pass.
What they beat us
Matt
on.
Millen gets pulled out. Jack Squirick comes in. We run a jet rip blue slash. I'm sure you remember jet rip
Oh,
blue
you do.
slash.
That's
Like
only-
slant.
that's the only one we had,
Only,
right?
only blitz we
That's
had.
only blitz
We ran it
we
once a game, twice a game. So we run jet rip blue slash, bring the
Never
safety off the
forget it.
corner. We pressure Theismann. Theismann's drifting back. He throws it to Joe Washington, the play that they had beaten us with earlier in the
Correct.
year. Jack Squire kicks the ball off, runs to the end zone, game over.
And that was the smart Charlie Sumner, right?
Yes.
Pull
Who
that
never
move.
said a nice thing to any of us.
Yeah, but we just knew we was going to win that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And like Howie said, we put them 21-0 at halftime, and we got scores where we didn't think we were going to get scores from our special team and our defense.
Yeah.
So Marcus just had to just go do his thing after
He
that.
went. Yeah, he went.
And ironically, it was a counter 67 play, which is a kind of a Washington play. And they had stuffed it at the point of attack. And Marcus kind of rolls back around And the guy that's leading him in, you see Marcus running down the sideline, all you see this blur. It's 34-year-old Cliff Branch running down the field to make a block. Yeah.
74-yard
Yeah.
run for Marcus.
Marcus is, you know, if you're looking at the combination of runner, best chip blocker, sneaky chip blocker, he'd give you that head fake, and you go like this, and then he'd
Back up.
come up under your jaw, rib cage people. I mean, he was physical. He could throw the football. He played quarterback in high school. He made a number of big throws for us over the years. Great pass protector. And a lot of people forget this. Everyone looks at, and Bo was, you know, my God. I mean, that's like lock him in a closet, you know, run a 4.2. He's
That's what you said about me.
234. Yeah. No, but guys like that.
I know what you're saying,
There's
though.
very few guys like that. That you can, you know, Dion, Barry Sanders, you know, guys like that just, they don't need to, you know, I'm not saying they don't need to practice, but Bo was special. Bo makes that one long run down the left sideline, okay? What people don't realize, and if you look at it again closely, who's the fullback?
Steve Smith?
Marcus Allen.
Oh, hey. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And you know he's going to get his man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But here's Marcus Allen playing fullback.
Right.
And, you know, it's unfortunate.
And look,
whatever happened there.
That could have been a good trivia.
Yeah.
That could have been a good trivia
Right,
question. Yeah.
right.
But also in that Super Bowl, one of the amazing things that happened for me and my other rookie, Bill Pickell, we both got a sack in that Super Bowl.
Right.
So we became the first rookie. Well, he was the first, I was second, but we were the first rookies to have a sack in Super Bowl because they just made sack a stat the year before.
Yeah, my rookie year they didn't do sacks.
So it was like for
That's
me.
how old I am.
all around.
Oh, for me and Bill
That's
and
how
I.
damn old I am.
And Bill and I came in the same year, came in together. So
Right.
it was always that bond we had from that day.
From the jump,
From the
yeah.
day, yeah. Because when the Raiders flew me into Alameda, Bill was already there. So you described Bill early, big old tall guy, big and squared off shoulders. And I'm thinking again,
Look like an
do I have to
aircraft
look like that? Do I have to look like that to
No.
play this game?
You know, that's the thing. You were a positionless player. It was almost like a flip where
I
it
came
was,
in 6'2", 235 pounds, and talking about playing line in the NFL. Playing line in the NFL, no, brother, I don't know. But Earl, like I said, he coached us up so well that that's how
we were prepared for every conceivable situation.
Which is so special. Most teams don't have that. You guys had someone
No.
very special out there and well-earned and deserved championship. What did the locker room look like?
You'll never know.
Yeah,
we
I
won't
mean-
tell. You ain't telling.
You can't
Howie,
share.
you ain't telling either.
It's like Fight Club.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Fight Club.
Oh, no.
Hey, listen, you know, it
locker room was the locker room.
It was
yeah.
the locker room.
What you think it happened.
Hey,
whatever you think it happened.
Whatever happened on the plane
Stays on the plane.
stays on the plane. Whatever happened in the locker room stays in the locker room.
Yeah, I know I wrote a book. I know you wrote a book. And nothing in the locker room is in the books.
No.
Wow, we're holding on that one forever. I get it.
Yeah.
I wish you had some locker room stories I can hold on
I
to.
know.
Bring me to present day for a moment. I know we touched on Max Crosby, AP, and what the Raiders have now here in Las Vegas. What do you see? Are there similarities from what, like we said, earlier? And then what do you feel is going to be happening moving forward with this new regime in place and bringing that Raider way back?
I see similarities. I see Mark look like Al. I see AP looks like Tom. And I see everybody is following the leader. And that's what we did. And that's what looks similar. Now, the other part that looks similar too is some hungry guys. We see the hungry in their eyes. There's some hungry guys out there playing. They want to win. I can see that. I went to a couple of practices too this year. And I was just watching practice, just kind of, being incognito and just watching guys hit each other and guys just getting back up, hitting again. And I'm saying that's what we did back in our day. All our practice was like a scrimmage But that practice I went to.
Live inside
Yeah.
run, live goal line.
And
live,
I loved it. And
yeah.
I loved it. And it looks like us.
Here's the thing that I think is important, and I said this to Max. I said, listen, history's great, and it's great to acknowledge it, respect it, and I appreciate the fact that he does, and I appreciate the fact that hopefully all the players do, and as we did when we came in, because there were so many great players before us. I think I speak for everyone that played, and particularly with our group, which was the last group to win a Super Bowl, is we just want this group to make their own history.
Amen.
And it's time for them to make their own history. And you're always looking for the key pieces. Have you found the quarterback? And I think this version of the defense is getting better and better and better and better. And I think they're playing with the same kind of tenacity that we did. Max plays at a level of intensity that I think is unmatched.
It's off the chart.
So I'm excited, and like I said, Greg and I both, I think if we could press the time machine button back, like I said, the two things you have now is you have time, and that's flying by, and opportunity, and you don't have much time, and you don't have a lot of opportunities, and if these guys realize how fast it goes by.
Yeah.
The last thing I will ask of the fans, the Raider way, and it doesn't have to be, long or short, however you want. What does the Raider way mean to each of you?
You want to go first on that?
Go ahead, man.
Okay. The Raider way mean to me is what I said earlier. It's about winning. It's about winning your competition, winning the match man in front of you, and not worrying about getting your tail kicked. It's almost like going into a fight and you worried about getting hit or getting knocked down or no, you can't go into a fight thinking that way. You have to go into a fight thinking, I got this, I'm gonna do what it takes to get it done, and that's how you do it. And so that's my way of the Raider way, is just knowing what you have to do to get it done and just get it done.
I think, the standard is the standard. And it's been that way for years. And, unfortunately, through thick and thin, our fan base, I think we've become we're the Southwest Raiders. Because, being there in Oakland and being there in LA and then going back to Oakland and now here. And, I think the Vegas move was, and you talked about Mark, is such an Al move. And I remember Mark saying that years ago. I was up in a box with him, and he said, "You know what? I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna be a good owner, and I'm gonna be a good teammate, essentially, with the owners. And if remember when there was the question whether the Raiders would return to LA, and they ended up giving it to somebody else. And okay, fine. The Rams went back to LA, but they were the Anaheim Rams. And I don't even, you could drop me in Anaheim, I couldn't find LA.
They call some people call them Orange County Rams.
Yes,
Right.
Orange County.
I don't even know where Orange County is. But the standard is the standard. And I think, collectively and individually, you have to say to yourself, and, everyone looks at it, I think Greg certainly looks at it the same way. And the people that we played with and, who would fight you over a game of, of aces,
game of 8.
Yeah,
Crazy
whatever.
Crazy eights. Yeah.
And I think you have to ask yourself the question, are you happy being in the team picture, or do you want to be great? And being great it's a full-time job.
Yeah. No
And
doubt.
heavy lies the head that wears the crown, and you got to be that every day. It was almost like when I quit, it was like a weight was off my shoulders, because I didn't have to be the baddest son of a gun
you don't have to do
in
that
the
no
room.
more,
I don't
right?
do that anymore. Now I still size a room up. I know where the biggest threat is. You always size the room up, though, don't you?
You have to.
You have to.
You mentioned it, so I'm going off of it. You said we're the Southwest Raiders. Oakland, LA, Oakland, Vegas.
I'm always amazed at where they come from. It's like I run into people, I'm sure you do too, everywhere. who are Raider fans.
Oh,
Whether it's in Vegas, it's in Arizona, it's
Everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, how come you're a Raider fan? I don't know. I just, and it's a team that, as I said, I think we're the Southwest Raiders. We've got that whole kind of area locked up.
On lock, yeah.
And our fans just love us. They love us, like you said, thick or thin. They're going to be there.
Yep.
Southwest Raiders, you heard it here first. We're reporting live from Las Vegas.
Vegas is not bad. The Sphere, you've been to the Sphere?
Yes, that's fun. You like the Sphere?
I loved it.
I love it too.
I loved it.
I haven't been in it, but
Greg.
I like looking at
Greg,
it. Yeah,
you got to go.
I love to go.
What was the last concert we were at together? Frankie Beverly?
Frankie Beverly and Mays.
What? You guys went to see?
Oh, God, yeah.
Raiders Talk of the Nation. That's another episode down. We explored LA. We talked about the Southwest, everything. We got on lock. Howie Long, Greg, Townsend. Thank you, gentlemen, so much.
Thank you.